Stephen Smith. I'm with Christian Leadership Partners, and this is the 22nd day of our coaching sessions, and hopefully they're making a difference for you. You know, today's Sunday, and we're going to be at Friendship Church. You're more than welcome to join us today, because what we're going to do is I'll actually be there to answer your questions, to be able to direct you and lead you in the paths that hopefully you've chosen. Now, we'll discuss this with others as well, but you're also more than welcome to join us and have a one-on-one coaching session with me. So make sure that you join us today at Friendship Church. I think that it'll really help you out. You know, today what we're going to do is we're going to go through Proverbs chapter 22. And one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at where we're at in relationship to our goals. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the environment that we're currently in. We want to make sure that that environment is exactly what and where and how we need to be before we actually begin stepping into our plan or stepping into our goal to do our moonshot, like what we talked about yesterday. So we want to assess today our environment. We're going to talk about three parts of our environment. The first one is what's your physical environment? Where are you at physically? The second thing we're going to talk about is our relational environment. What are the relationships you have, and are they consistent with where you want to go with your goals? And the third thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our spiritual environment and see what we're hanging out within the spiritual realm, and see if maybe that's holding you back, and if you're in position to be able to step forward into that next level. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the opportunity to be able to do that. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get into Proverbs chapter 22, and it's going to make a huge difference for us. Let's take a look at some of the things that it provides for us. So Proverbs chapter 22 gives us 5 different things that we can look at, and if you look closely, you'll probably find a lot more than that. But Proverbs 22 talks about the value of a good reputation with 3 different people: with the king, with our peers, and with our subordinates. We also want to make sure that we keep our eyes and our ears open for good things, and also for the things that can harm us. He also gives us a lot of really good relational advice here in Proverbs 22. And then he also talks a lot about good versus evil plans. And if we can look at these things and understand, hey, wait a second, let me use Proverbs chapter 22 to start assessing the environment that I'm in. Now, it's really neat because Proverbs 22, he finishes up the last 8 verses with a letter to you. This is him saying, look, this is the reason why I wrote Proverbs, and hopefully you can use this to do the following things. I encourage you to find within that part of this particular chapter something that can actually make a huge difference in your life. See this as Solomon writing this letter directly to you, and that's exactly what he did for you. So let's get started with Proverbs 22, and then we'll talk a lot about environment. Proverbs 22, choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold. The rich and the poor have this in common: the Lord made them both. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. True humility and fear of the Lord lead to riches, honor, and a long life. Corrupt people walk a thorny, treacherous road. Whoever values life will avoid it. Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. Those who plan injustice will harvest disaster, and their reign of terror will come to an end. Blessed are those who are generous, because they feed the poor. Throw out the mockers, and fighting goes too. Quarrels and insults will disappear. Whoever loves a pure heart and gracious speech will have the king as a friend. The Lord preserves those with knowledge, but he ruins the plans of the treacherous. The lazy person claims, there's a lion out there. If I go outside, I might be killed. The mouth of an immoral woman is a dangerous trap. Those who make the Lord angry will fall into it. A youngster's heart is filled with foolishness, but physical discipline will drive it far away. A person who gets ahead by oppressing the poor or showering gifts on the rich will end in poverty. Listen to the words of the wise. Apply your heart to my instruction. For it is good to keep these sayings in your heart and always ready on your lips. I'm teaching you today, yes, you, so you will trust in the Lord. I've written 30 sayings for you, filled with advice and knowledge. In this way, you may know the truth and take an accurate report to those who sent you. Don't rob the poor just because you can, or exploit the needy in court. For the Lord is their defender. He will ruin anyone who ruins them. Don't befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. Don't agree to guarantee another person's debt or put up security for someone else. For if you can't pay it, even your bed will be snatched from under you. Don't cheat your neighbor by moving the ancient boundary markers set up by previous generations. Do you see any truly competent workers? They will serve kings rather than working for ordinary people. So Proverbs chapter 22 really helps us to see how important environment is for us. Did you see it? Hopefully you identified the verses here that can actually help you recognize the fact that if I'm in a good environment, I'm going to succeed. If I'm in a bad environment, I will not prosper. Let's look at environment this way. If our environment is the way that our lives are going to go, I would actually take my seed and plant it into a good environment. I would put it into good, rich soil. I would make sure that it has the water to prosper. I would make sure that it has the nutrients to prosper, and my seed is actually going to take off. Now, I'm not going to take my seed and plant it in rocky ground. I'm not going to plant it on a sidewalk. I'm not going to try and do something that's not going to give it the best opportunity to succeed. Well, our lives are the same way. The environment that you are in is going to control the things that you're able to accomplish. If you're in a good, sound environment, it's actually going to help you out. If you're in a bad environment, you're not going to do that well. So let's take a look at these 3 different environments that can actually make a huge difference for us. Now, the first environment that we want to take a look at is our physical environment. I want you to see this because if you are in a noisy, clamorous environment, then you're not going to be able to pay attention to what it is that you know that you have to do. Have you noticed that if you've got all of your computers on, if you're constantly got your Facebook feed running, if you constantly got the TV on while you're trying to work, that there are several different distractions that will actually keep you from attaining what it is that you want to do. But if you turn all those things off and you use this either as a reward, or if you say, I'm not going to turn them on till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to see that you're going to be a lot more prosperous. We want to get rid of the distractions in our life, and to get rid of the electronic elements within that can actually make a huge difference. Did you know that the most successful Ivy League professors will actually turn off their computers, they'll turn off their phones, they'll turn off everything until they have completed exactly what it is that they want to do? Why can't you do that? Well, I might get a phone call that's really important. Ed McMahon might call me. Well, how about if you just focus on what it is that the Lord wants you to do, or focus on your job and see how well that actually works for you? Change your physical environment to one with less distractions and that will give you the greatest opportunity for success. Now, we want to do the same thing with our relationships. I want to make sure that I'm right in the right relational environment. A good place to do that is in church rather than in, a bar or some place where you're not actually meeting the best people in the world. What we really want to do is we want to make sure that our relationships support the goals that we've written down. We've written down our goals for the last 3 straight weeks, and hopefully you've actually got a really good idea of what you want to accomplish and how you want to do it. Are there people around you that are preventing you from doing that? Just make an assessment. I think that you'll notice that there might be some people that you might want to leave behind. Hopefully that's not your wife and that's not your peers or your subordinates. What you really want to do is you want to develop those types of relationships to become better for you. And we can do that, and we'll talk a lot about that in the future. The other thing is that we want to take a look at our spiritual environment. What are we doing? Every single day we go into Proverbs and we're going through Proverbs. I go through Proverbs at night before I go to sleep, and then I have a morning devotional with the Lord and spend time with Him for an hour and then another hour with my wife. You might say, Steve, I don't have that kind of time. Well, what time are you going to bed and what time are you getting up? A lot of times we can just do that and it'll change the way that we're looking at things. But the bottom line here is that the greatest environment that you can place yourself in is one that you share with God. If God is walking with you, and if your environment is right there with you, and His promises that He'll never leave you, He'll never forsake you, why not be present with the Lord in your life, because He's present with you in yours? And if you're able to do those things and you're able to start seeing, hey, wait a second, I can start succeeding where I know that I failed in the past. So take a look at your environment. Make sure that your environment supports your goals and supports the mission that you want to do. Remember, we just spent 4 straight days working on our plans. Why not give that plan the best opportunity for success? We'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow. But in the meantime, why don't you be a miracle going someplace to happen?